in the application, the grant is not to replace the Port Royal engine.
That is correct.
That's the next purchase cycle,
That's
which
correct.
is 16?
Yes, we're looking for the 16 budget
Right.
to replace the Port Royal truck with what is called a conventional cab engine tanker. We'll actually, Chief can explain it better than I can.
Oh, I mean, that's fine, that's fine. Well, I really want to know what you're going to do with the old truck.
Museum?
We don't own the old truck.
We don't own the old truck?
No, 31 years
It
old.
would go to the volunteer company to disperse.
Do volunteers own it?
Own that 31-year-old truck? Yes, sir.
Can we have it at Carmel Church, since we got land for a fire station? We don't have a building, but we can just sit it out there on our land and
You
say...
got one sitting at the Public Works.
What?
You got one at Public Works.
You mean I think at the landfill?
No, out Public Works.
Oh, well, I want that one then.
I understand, but it's a truck.
Just some logic here with the grant.
Oh, no, the grant is good. We're good on
Okay.
that. We're just talking about the old fire truck.
It's not ours. We could request it.
Can you ask the volunteers if we can put that in Carmel Church to help out?
I'm thinking if they get a new one, we have some leverage.
I'm thinking we would too.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Chief. Okay. Wow, the sheriff left. Major Mosier, can you help us, please? I didn't mean to let the sheriff go, but agenda item number 5
Yes, sir.
is your request, or actually the sheriff's request for or for a county fee of $5 to help with software, hardware. Oh, the sheriff didn't leave.
No,
Okay.
he's still here.
But we've moved on to agenda item number 5, Sheriff, so we're going to, I'd ask Major Mosier, but you'd like to impose a fee of $5 to help fund software, hardware for the electronic summons system.
That is correct.
Okay, anything you want to tell us about it, or?
We just think that that fee would prevent the county from having to fund any type of e-citation system that the county would have to come up with. The statute allows for a $5 fee. That fee can be collected before the actual system's in place, and we can put that money in reserve for the purchase of the system. It's also an officer safety issue. It would enhance our abilities to be more efficient out there in the road by scanning the licenses, and it would work much better for the guys.
Okay.
And
I'm not in law enforcement, but I understand from law enforcement folks that one of the most dangerous jobs is serving summonses. So
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to actually help because we're going to email them or something else. You'll still deliver them?
This is actually the summons that you get for speeding.
Can
Where
you
we-
explain,
Oh,
because
wait a
I
minute.
don't know
Now,
what this
Yeah.
is.
You just hit my road here. We're
Yes.
talking about speeding?
Yes.
Oh, wait a second now. Okay.
It's a scan the driver's license, so that when you go to the car and you receive the driver's license from the individual, you go back to your police car. If they have multiple summons, you scan the license one time, it reads the strip on the license, it populates the ticket, it prints it out, and it's also automatically uploads the sheriff's office software in the records department, which will prevent our records clerk from having to enter all the data in there from the tickets. And it will also upload into the court system as well, which
Right.
prevents them from having to upload all the data to their system.
Okay.
So it's much more efficient. The cost
So-
is actually supported by the actual additional $5 fee per ticket. That is the code allows for us to purchase that system and anything related to that system, such as laptops, paper for the printers, whatever we may need.
Okay.
In order to keep it
Now-
alive and working.
One more little minor question. I'm sure this must be a dual database system because you're going to be in places like Sparta, like we said, without internet access. So you'll be able to scan my license when you get me for speeding, but it'll download right to your vehicle's computer, and then when you get back to the office, you'll upload that data.
Yes, it has the ability to work on a wireless system.
Now, if you're somewhere in Ladysmith where you got wireless,
It will
it's going to
work.
work right away.
Exactly.
Okay, so the ticket I get in Sparta when I drive over to Ladysmith, you're not going to know I got that ticket in Sparta on the same day, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to pass the ordinance in order for the fee to be assessed by the clerk's office.
Right, this is our
Yeah.
first reading, and we just want to make sure we understand what you want to do before we go to public hearing. So, Mr. Sealy, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just curious what the system was, because it really didn't, when I saw that it was an electronic summons system, it didn't make any sense that you would electronically send a summons to somebody, so I was trying to figure out what it was.
Yeah, the tickets on the side of the road are actually summonses. They're called summonses, but everybody else calls them tickets.
Right,
Yeah,
because all we ever get are tickets.
yeah, which is actually a summons.
But the summons part made more sense, to electronically send it to your house, because like I said, that's the most dangerous thing.
Yeah, that won't happen.
I'm scared to death sitting on the side of the road, so that's another story.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Underwood?
Yeah, just wanted to ask, are there any law enforcement in the state of Virginia or Commonwealth of Virginia using this?
Yes, sir.
And if so, can you just discuss a little bit about it in terms of upkeep, upgrade? I think it's a great idea at first, but I just wanted to hear a little more about the cost of upkeep, upgrades, changes in software, what it might cost down the road, and would the $5 fee that you're charging continue to pay for upgrades? You know, technology changes
Right.
daily. So is this a fairly new system that you're looking at? Or have we not gotten that far yet? We're just trying to get the ordinance in.
Well, actually, we have researched the cost and what it would cost to maintain the system over a period of time and the upgrades. And the $5 fee, based on the number of tickets that are written in Caroline, would more than take care of the issue, not only the software, but also the hardware that it goes along with it. We feel very comfortable that the money is not going to be something we're going to be coming back to you for and say, hey, we've got this great system, but we need to supplement it by $5,000 a year. That doesn't appear to be in the numbers at all.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
In
21st century technology.
We got to move forward.
Yep.
In the board overview, the sheriff said this will generate, the $5 fee will generate between $30,000 and $40,000 in revenue a year. But the system costs between $45,000 and $65,000 a year. And the ongoing maintenance is actually $20,000.
For the first year. First year.
I'm sorry, 45 to 65 to acquire the software. And then $20,000 in the second year and thereafter, because you get the first year's maintenance free. Okay, so if you do it on the low end, by the third year, we're probably breaking even. But you've said in here that the sheriff's office has agreed to delay implementation until enough funds have accumulated. Okay.
Smart.
Okay.
Different companies offer different programs as well, so, I mean, a lot of them, they will actually upfront the equipment and cost and just break it out per month and stuff of that nature, but I think the sheriff has the best plan of just delaying it and collecting the fee until we have enough funds to actually get it implemented, so.
Well, that'll be up to you and Mr. Cully to work through. You'll have the option of waiting as you proposed, which could be a couple of years before you have money to do it, and that might be good for technology change, or you could work it out with the vendor that you get your hardware and software and then pay the vendor over 3 years. That's totally up to you. But first, we've got to actually hold a public hearing and adopt the ordinance. So I think we've got enough information if there's no other questions. All right, motion to move forward. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Motion to move forward be in order.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Black? Motion made by Mr. Underwood, second by Mr. Black to move from first reading of the proposed amendment, Chapter 37-7 of the Code to assess a court fee for software for electronic summons. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. 6 is the selection of the option to implement require. Yeah, 6 is the one. We're going to move to agenda item number 6. Agenda item 6 is actually the option to reduce our budget based on the state reductions. I think the last couple of years the state has, or the General Assembly has reduced budgets throughout the Commonwealth. Our impact was $60-some thousand this year. So we can either write a check back to the state for $60,000 or reduce programs to cover that $60,000 budget. And Mr. Cully, do you want to, you've made a recommendation for us.
Yeah, we would recommend that you just designate that the reductions be withheld from the state payments to the county. Some of the programs are not things that you really can reduce, like CSA. I mean, that's a mandated program. All they're doing is just cutting the state aid to you, but if we have a number of kids or extra kids or anything, we're going to spend more than what the state's going to reimburse us for. But I certainly wouldn't recommend writing them a check. Just let them reduce with the various line items, and we've got that broken down in here by the departments that those are on the last page. You know, and we will certainly send a letter to the various organizations letting them know that those things have been reduced and that they need to save money in their budget. But there are going to be some of them that's going to be, you know, difficult to do, especially CSA.
I would say CSA is.
It's more than half. Go ahead.
I mean, CSA, 37,000, I mean, in the scheme of the budget, it doesn't seem like much, but I think we made an additional appropriation last year, and I don't know, we're too early in the year to even tell you where we're at. But it does, I guess the other agencies that I'm concerned about, we're almost halfway through the budget year once we get, I mean, we're basically there. Are any of them aware? Have you talked to any of the departments about these cuts?
They're aware they're out there. I don't know that they know the significance of the number, but as you can see, for you know, most of them it's not a significant number in their overall operational budget, and I would think that most of us would be able to make that without a lot of issue. Given our history over the last couple of years, everybody's been pretty frugal. Nobody's spent their full allotment of their budget, their allocation, or appropriation. So, I mean, hopefully we would be. I mean, the treasurer's $600. I think, you know, we would work to try to find that, and clerk of the court. That
I
type
just
of
know
thing.
that this year's the easy year, next year's the hard year.
Well, yeah, but we'll know next year going into budget what they've reduced it, so we won't even budget for it. Or if we
Right.
do,
No,
we know
that's not right.
we'll have budgeted local money for it. The amount is the whole amount in the scheme of our fund balance and where we are is
Right.
we're okay.
All right, that's Mr. Cully's recommendation, is that we go with the reduction of departments as opposed to what we did before, which was pay the state, basically wrote a check to the state. I'm going to stop talking now.
I would so move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
We
you, Mr.
accept the
Townsend.
recommendation for the reductions as presented by Mr. Cully.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion's made by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Underwood, that we accept the county administrator's recommendation to implement the required reduction in state aid to localities. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do 8 or 9. And we'll be back, okay. We will take, we've done a couple of those. We'll take a break and we'll be back at 7:30 for the public comment section of the agenda, followed by our public hearing on the proposed amendment to solid waste management plan. So we will take a break until 7:30. We will reconvene. At 7:30, the board provides an opportunity for any citizen to come before the Board of Supervisors and discuss any matter that is on their mind, with the exception of public hearings. We're having a public hearing later on the proposed solid waste management plan. So if there's anyone who would like to speak to the board as part of public comments based on anything other than that, please feel free to do so. And as Mr. Allen walks down, he will state his name and his voting district, and then we'll move on.
Maxwell Les Allen, Bone Green District. The reason I'm here tonight is I came to the public hearing the other day on the chain enterprise thing, and you people listen to a lot of people from not in this jurisdiction praise what they wanted to do. But you had a packet, petition in your packet, with lots of forged names on it, and y'all completely ignored it. And I would like to know why.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. We're not going to actually have a dialogue right now, but we will probably make comments after we finish the public comment section.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the board on any matter other than the public hearings we're holding this evening? Is there anyone who would like to, other than the solid waste management plan? We're going to have a public hearing on that separately. Anyone else like to speak about anything else? All right, hearing none, we're going to declare the public comment section closed. And for Mr. Allen, you missed the beginning of the meeting. Mr. Underwood stated in his board comments that the petition meant nothing to him. We actually talked to the investigator during our break, and he said there were 700 names on the petitions that were submitted to the Planning Commission, and of those, approximately 125 were deemed to be not valid. So there's 500 names that I guess they're assuming were valid on the petition. And for my personal vote, which I'll speak to, is we listened to everybody who came to public comment or to speak at the public hearing. We listened to everyone. However, the people that came from other jurisdictions and came to talk about how nice the owner of the property was, their public comment was not necessarily germane to the actual subject we were voting on. So that's the way I looked at it, and I think all of us took accounts, and for me there were more people at the public hearing for it, a considerable number for it than against it. All from the county, not counting the ones outside the county. So I think that's it, and of course, you and I can discuss it at any time that we'd like to in more detail. I'd be happy to. Okay. All right, moving forward.
Could I just, since he asked?
If you would like to add something, Mr.
Thank you.
Taylor, go right
I
ahead.
would just like to say, I would be more than happy to discuss my vote with any citizen at any time. I won't belabel it right now because the meeting has to go on. But I would just like to add that any time a petition is circulated, one has no way of knowing whether or not those signatures are valid. And as far as I'm concerned, as has been stated, that petition had nothing to do with the way that I voted. I voted based on what I felt was a positive impact on the county. I listened to the citizens. I visited one of the operations. I did whatever I had to do or could do to find out as much information as I could, and I made a decision based on what I thought was best for Caroline County. But it had nothing to do with that petition. I never looked at the petition. My name might have been on it. I have no idea whose name was on it. So as far as my vote is concerned, I felt that it was in the best interest of Caroline County, and that's why I voted for it. And if anybody wants to speak to me about it later, I'll be glad to talk to you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. We're going to move to agenda item number 4, which is the proposed amendment of the solid waste management plan. Mr. Schiebel is going to make a brief presentation to us, and then we will open the public hearing and move forward from there. Mr. Schiebel, good to see you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Tonight's public hearing is for consideration of a proposed amendment to the Caroline County Solid Waste Management Plan. The Planning Department received a request for the initiation of zoning text amendments that would allow for the construction, demolition, debris, and limited commercial waste landfill. Our current solid waste management plan does not allow for landfills to be operated in the county. Therefore, the plan must be amended to allow for the consideration of such a facility prior to any text amendments. A public hearing was properly advertised, and copies of the proposed solid waste management plan were available for public viewing at each branch of our library system. The public comment period was open for a period of 30 days to allow for public input of the proposed changes. No comments have been received to my office to date. The proposed amendments is to modify the solid waste management plan to add additional disposal capacity by adding a private facility for construction, demolition, debris, and limited commercial waste. The proposed facility would create an opportunity to increase the county's recycling rate by at least 5%. It would also provide at least 20 million cubic yards of additional disposal capacity over the next 20 years. It is expected to generate additional revenue for the county from fees and other savings. By the board approving this proposed amendment to the solid waste management plan, it does not automatically give permission for a solid waste plan facility to be located in Caroline County. This is but one step of a lengthy process that will require text amendments, additional public hearings, approval from this board, the Virginia Department of Environmental Equality. This amendment is consistent with the regulations and requirements of Virginia Code 9 VAC 20-175A1A. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schiebel. Board members at this time have any questions of Mr. Schiebel?
Not at this time.
All right, thank you. As Mr. Schiebel stated, this is an amendment to the county solid waste plan. This is not an approval of a construction debris landfill or any other type of landfill. It does represent the first step, as he said, of a many-step process before there would be that approval. So this first thing we are working on now is just the amendment to the solid waste plan. Having said that, I will open the public hearing for anyone who would like to speak. Public hearing is declared open. If you would like to speak and you're with the proposed applicant, well, you have 3 minutes, madam.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and to offer comments in support of the requested amendment to the county's solid waste management plan. My name is Andrea Wurtzel. I'm with Troutman Sanders. I'm here on behalf of Caroline Recycling. With me are Ed Wilborn and Paul Farrell, principals of Caroline Recycling. Caroline Recycling requested the amendment under consideration so that the board and the Department of Environmental Quality could consider a project Caroline Recycling would like to propose. The current solid waste management plan does not speak to any waste management facilities aside from the county's convenience centers. The proposed amendment recognizes that a disposal facility may be proposed for consideration. Caroline Recycling would like to propose a project in the Reedy Church District that includes a construction, demolition, debris, and limited commercial waste landfill and a recycling center. A later phase of the project would include development of an industrial park. The project would enhance Caroline County's solid waste management program by offering a more convenient disposal option for construction demolition debris, supporting the county's convenience centers, and enhancing the county's recycling program. Caroline Recycling is committed to ensuring that the county receives benefits from this project, including lower costs for construction in the county, new county revenue, jobs, and enhanced recycling and waste management options. We look forward to the opportunity to discuss these benefits with the county and the public should this amendment be approved. Approval of this amendment allows Caroline Recycling to apply for a DEQ permit and for zoning for this project and to initiate communications with the public about the project. Caroline Recycling recognizes that this amendment does not approve or endorse the project itself, but simply allows the board to be able to, and the public, to be able to consider it and for Caroline Recycling to formally apply for the zoning and other necessary approvals for the project. Thank you again for your consideration of this proposed amendment, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, and we will wait until we finish the public hearing. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter?
Hello, my name is Donald Ball. I live on Route 648. I'm in the Mattapanai district. Where 648 comes out to 301, you go across, it turns into 656. Where is this proposed site going to be? Right at that intersection? Or does anybody tell me?
We will, I can give you roughly a mile off of 301, but we're going to wait till the applicant comes back again, and then we'll give you a little more specifics.
But yeah, it's a lot of water on that property. It's several ponds. It's a lot of low land on it. Is this type of a facility just for construction type of demolition type things, or?
The amendment description is for a private facility for construction, demolition, debris, and limited commercial waste. So it would be different than municipal
household trash.
No household trash, no food, no birds flying around, things like that.
Okay, what about like asbestos? What about insulation, fiberglass insulation, sheetrock, anything like that that can leach into the water. Has that been considered?
All of those things are considered, and all of those things are controlled by the Department of Environmental Quality.
And also on Road 656, it's supposed to be no tractor and trailers coming down that road as of right now. So is that going to be a special exemption for these out-of-state people and all to come into, as well as county waste?
I don't think we're going to allow that, and normally I'm not supposed to have an interface and conversation with you like this, but I don't think that's one of the things they're going to have, because I believe the applicant talked about specific truck restrictions. They wouldn't drive through the Main Street in Bowling Green. They would only use major roads and things of that nature. They wouldn't go through any subdivisions. So I'm going to let you finish with your 3 minutes.
Okay. How much more time I got? Not much. Okay. Are they going to be digging a pit to do stuff like this? So they're going to be actually burying some stuff over time?
There'll be a lot more about the actual landfill. This is just to talk about whether we add that description to our ordinance.
Well, I just want the Board of Supervisors to consider the ramifications of anything on that type of land.
And we definitely appreciate that, because we want to make sure we consider everything that you bring up. So, thank you, sir.
Afternoon.
Afternoon, Joe.
Oh, great. I just have one quick question.
Well, you got to tell us your name and your voting district.
Joseph James, Reeder Church District. On this particular amendment description, it says modify the Caroline County Solid Waste Management Plan to add additional disposal capacity by adding a private facility for construction, demolition, debris, and limited commercial waste. Is this amendment only applicable to the presentation that's being presented, or will it be modified so that it can be applicable anywhere in the county, anywhere in the future?
It's specific to this particular application, this particular site.
So once this amendment is either approved with these changes, it will not be applicable to Northern Carolina or Southern Carolina or Western Carolina. Is that correct?
Based on the solid waste management plan, the county has to identify a specific location where any type of landfill would be created. So this one is saying specifically one off of 301. It doesn't mean that somebody could start one tomorrow on 207 or start one in the middle of Bowling Green.
Okay, so that language will be in the amendment identifying the specific location.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
My name's William Gordon, Mattapanai District,
Bill, how you
Knoll
doing?
Road. Doing well. I'm going to ask a question. Were any of you board members on the board when this landfill amendment was struck down the first time? 20, 25 years ago, they tried to put a landfill there, and it was turned down. Why is it resurfacing? Same piece of property.
Bill, I guess I'm the only one who can say yes. So I believe, and you're referring to what was the Spratt Recycling
Right.
project, and I think that was more of a commercial, residential, what's called the municipal solid waste landfill, household trash, things of that nature. This particular proposal specifically says construction, demolition, debris. So there are distinct differences between the type of landfills that can be proposed.
I mean, it's still a landfill. I mean,
It's
you know, different trash, but it's trash. You know, I mean, it's not all Caroline's trash.
That's
You know,
that's a good point that you're making. What this application says is it's not specifically household trash, which is where you get the leachate issues and animals and things. This is where they're going to recycle cinder block, wood, bricks, and things from construction sites, and that's it. But again, even if we voted right now to say, yes, we want this amendment, there are still many steps before there would be anything like that. So this is just saying our plan says we can have a landfill in the county. Now, we don't have to vote this. If we vote no, then we can't have one. If we vote yes, we will look at whatever proposal we have in front of us a little more closely.
I hope you vote no.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
My name is Dorothy Amos, and I live on Dry Bridge Road, which is 656. I live about 3/4 of a mile off of 301. I'm really concerned about this. I have a beautiful pond. I've been living there 13 years. We built a beautiful pond. I have ducks and geese that stay in my pond and fly right over to where the wetlands are, right across from my road. I know they're wetlands. I've walked over there many a time looking for holly and stuff with my dogs. I'm worried what is going to happen to the traffic on that road. It's 45 through there. The trucks are forbidden to come through there unless they are dumping at Moore's Mill. Matter of fact, Mr. Moore told me when I came there, my husband and I, he said, Ms. Amos, years ago, they were going to try to put a dump across over there, across from your house, but it would be so wet. It was wetlands over there, and it wouldn't pass. Now, my question is, and I know there's wetlands over there, what has changed?
I don't think the two sites are the same, Ms. Amos. They're not the same. The Spratt recycling facility that you're talking about was a lot closer to 207, and this one is much further south.
So you're going to be passing me. I'm right I'm about a quarter of a mile off of 301 on 656. I'm the only brick house until you get to Moore's Mill on that road.
Okay. Yeah, do we have, Mr. Shebel, you don't have a map that was available for this? Paul, do you have a map with you?
I'm worried about my pond.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
worried about everything around there once we build this, if it's passed. And I pray that you do not pass it.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Amos.
Good evening.
Mr. Johnson.
I'm Jay Johnson, and I vote in the Reedy District. My concerns, and I know, like you said, there is a process. Most of the people, if not all, are using well water. And so I would like studies done on this about what the effect would be with all of this, this waste going into the groundwater. And so I'm expecting that they have done studies and that those things will be taken in consideration. And just for the record, I'm against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Carson. I'm in the Mattaponi District.
Good evening, madam.
I first would just like to say right off the record that I hope that you do not pass this amendment. We do not need trash brought from out of Caroline County. We have enough trash of our own. Of course, we don't need to have any more brought in at all. The county needs to just consider the good old boys that didn't pass it the other time. We are not that desperate for money and jobs that we have to take trash from another state or other areas and bring it into our county. I'm sure we can find or create something better than another landfill. And I'm really concerned, as the other people are, about what limited commercial waste might be. Because if we have, as the lady said, with all the wetlands and the wells, we have to think about all of that. So I hope when you do consider this, think about how it will affect the county and that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carson.
I'm Myrna Satterwhite. I live on Sunshine Road on 648. And this landfill proposal, amendment rather, it would be in my front yard almost. We live just off of 301 on 648, and 648 and 656 is right across. And that piece of land was considered, some years ago for a landfill. This very same piece of land. And it's wetlands, and I don't see where it would do the county any good to pass this amendment. And I hope you all will consider all of the people who live near it, what they will have to endure. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Attaway. Evening, Ms. Barris.
Gentlemen, I'm Catherine Burris, and I live in the Mattaponi voting district, but adjacent to the area that is in question. I think history is a great teacher. I think if we look at the history that we have in Caroline County with landfills, there's a major consideration that needs to be given to why we don't have our own landfill now, and we're taking our own garbage to Hanover. If I remember correctly, and I learned of this public hearing too late to do any research, it seems to me that I remember when I was working for the county that we closed our garbage landfill because of drywall that was placed in that landfill, generated sulfur, and had to be burned off. That's a major concern when we start talking about construction trash, construction debris, commercial debris. I'm a little bit more afraid of that than I am what comes out of my trash can in my house being dumped in Caroline. Let's look at our history. There's a major, major lesson that we can learn from our very own personal experiences as a community based on what has happened here in Caroline. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Good evening.
My name is Sandra Sawyer. I live in the Reedy Church District. I'm voted in the Milford District. They didn't mention, one thing that they did not mention is if this amendment is passed, the smell that the people in the neighborhood, the smell when we come out of our houses, or even the value of our real estate dropping, because we have to think about our children. And we're, you know, in the future homes that we're hoping that's going to be built in that area. Because I'm assuming that one day, that area is going to build up like Carmel Church, because that's a lonely highway. And I know that Caroline County is a big county, so there has to be other places within the county on back roads or wooded areas away from everybody's homes, away from ponds and streams, that this landfill could be built on, or not at all, I hope.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Hearing none, the public hearing is declared closed. I think now the board members have gotten a presentation from the prospective construction debris landfill operation, and one thing that I gleaned from that is that I think it was Mrs. Carson's question of limited commercial. If you have wood at Home Depot or Lowe's or a place like that, you cannot put that wood in a regular construction debris landfill because that's considered commercial. But if I take that very same wood, deliver it to a job site, cut it up, then it becomes standard construction debris. So I think that part of the limited commercial comes from the definitions we get from DEQ, which is something we, of course, need to kind of firm up anyhow. That was kind of the only one. I'm going to ask Mr. Schiebel to investigate a little bit more, and my memory is not what it used to be, but the Spratt recycling landfill was a lot closer to 207. I remember that was actually in the Mattaponi district.
Next to the MC Dean property.
Right.
And actually came across the railroad tracks, a piece of it, just behind the wastewater treatment plant.
So that may or may not be what a couple of people talked about.
That was the Spratt landfill.
That was Spratt landfill.
89, 90 time frame?
92, actually. What was the landfill proposed for this site?
I'm not aware of any. I mean, there could have been prior to that, but I'm not aware of any.
Okay. Okay.
Are you aware of any?
Mr. Fincham? What's this? Oh my gosh, you're talking about stuff before I was born.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Yes, sir.
Pursuant to the board's decision to deny the Spratt application off of Route 207, if memory serves me correctly, the board offered Mr. Spratt the opportunity to look at other locations in the county. And there was some work done to identify potential sites, and if I recall correctly, the property in question was one site that was considered as an alternative location, which may speak to some of the comments from some of the citizens here tonight. Ultimately, the Board of Supervisors at that time decided not to go forward with the municipal solid waste facility that was proposed by Mr. Spratt.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add briefly, I was on the board at the time the Spratt landfill came before the board. And my understanding of it at that time, and I'm certainly not supporting or not supporting, but it was a totally different type of landfill is my understanding. We were talking household waste, we were talking about leachate, things that could get into the water table. And that was a real concern of the board at that time. And certainly this construction landfill is of a different type. I'm not saying that that's something I'm going to support, that the board should support. I'm just saying for informational purposes, it is a different type. The household waste needed particular types of linings and so forth. So it was just a totally different type of landfill. Again, the board at that time decided it was not in the best interest of the county to approve it, and so it did not approve it. But it was a different type of landfill.
Mr. Schiebel, anything else you wanted to add, or you were going to just answer questions we had
Just
for
going
you?
to answer questions, Mr. Chairman.
Board members have any questions? Okay. I was thinking there was a couple of things that we need to follow up on. Plus, we'll give Mr. Akers an opportunity to be here when we vote. So we have held a public hearing, and we are actually going to have another meeting December 9th, which you advertised, which is next Tuesday. So would the board have an objection to us following up to make sure we get answers to some of the questions brought up in the public hearing, and then we look at voting on December 9th, next week? Problem with that? Do I need a motion to do that? I don't really need a motion. She likes to always tell me I need a motion, so I wanted to ask her.
And again, we will not be voting on the landfill, we'll just be voting on the amendment. Is that right, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we are not voting on landfill, we are only voting on the text amendment, and if we voted on the text amendment and we approved the text amendment, we would have the opportunity to deny a commercial or construction debris landfill even at the site and leave that same language in the solid waste plan. Mr. Underwood, I said you wanted to address a couple of comments.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I had some of the same concerns